Welcome to another episode of our live stream, My Journey to the Trinity. My name is Hussein. Happy to be with you. Hey, there's my baby. Love human, love respect. God bless you, love human. I'm not sure I've seen you before. God bless you. Welcome, everybody. And today I'm looking at the top 10 Islamic arguments against the perfect preservation of the Quran. Perfect preservation of the Quran, I think they came up with that recently. It's not in the Quran. It's not in the Hadith. Islam never claimed that the Quran is perfectly preserved, but it is the belief. And I know when I was a kid in school in the Middle East, it was one of the first things they taught us is the perfect preservation of the Quran. I remember the sheikh saying, the Christians changed the Bible, the Jews changed the Torah, but nobody could change the Quran. It's perfect. It's da, da, da. Did you hear that too, babe? Oh, she didn't go. She didn't go to Muslim school. So. But so anyway, I just want to say that if you look in the Hadith and in the Quran, you don't come away with the idea that this book is perfectly preserved. It doesn't even make that claim. So anyway, we're going to look at the top 10 arguments against perfect Quran preservation in the Quran. Number one is this word forgot. This word forgot, okay? And we could do a year of episodes on this word forgot, but here's just some of them, okay? So first of all, there's this verse here in the Quran where Allah says to Muhammad, "We shall make you read, O Muhammad, so that you shall not forget." Now, this is Quran. Okay, Allah said this to Muhammad. He says, "You're going to read, Muhammad, satak sankari karak." Now, the word for read is ikra, and so you can hear the kar sankarak. We will make you read, فَلَا تَنْسَ, and you will not forget. Okay, but then the Quran turns around, okay, and well, first of all, let's look at this hadith. The Prophet said, "Why does people say, I have forgotten such and such verse in the Quran? He, in fact, is caused by Allah to forget." This is Sahih Hadith. So here, on the one hand, Allah saying, "You will not forget. I'm going to teach you so you not forget." But then Muhammad comes along and says, "When you forget such and such a verse, why does any one of the people say, I have forgotten such and such verses of the Quran?" He, in fact, is caused by Allah to forget. So Allah makes you forget. Okay? So the Quran says, Allah said, "You will not forget." Muhammad said, Allah makes you forget. You'll forget. So which is it? Okay, let's look at some more. Okay, here, Allah's telling Muhammad, this is Allah speaking. Allah speaking, saying, you're going to read it, and we're not going to let you forget it. But then Muhammad turns around and says, Allah makes you forget it. It's like, which is it? Okay. Okay, here's another verse. And he said to the one whom he knew to be saved, "Mention me to your Lord." But Satan made him forget to mention to his Lord. So there, Satan makes you forget. So Allah makes you forget, and Satan makes you forget. Here, sawest thou what happened? We betook ourselves to the rock. I did indeed forget. None but Satan makes you forget. Satan, Allah makes you forget, and Satan makes you forget. Oh, okay. All right. And then Satan takes control over them and made them forget God. Okay, so there again, Satan is the one that makes people forget. But ye treated them with ridicule so much that ridicule of them made you forget my message. So people make you forget. Allah makes you forget. Satan makes you forget. People make you forget. Okay. Uh, but the Quran says we're going to teach it to you and you will not forget. Okay. And then we have this hadith, which is the big hadith. It says the Prophet heard a reciter reciting the Quran in the mosque at night. The Prophet said, "May Allah bestow mercy on him, for he reminded me of such and such a verse, of such and such surah, which I missed." So Muhammad forgot surahs. Muhammad, even though Allah told him in the Quran, you will not forget, Surah 87, verse 6, Muhammad here says he forgot. So he heard some guy reciting a surah, and that made Muhammad remember something he forgot. So, you know, Satan makes you forget, Allah makes you forget, people make you forget. And even though Allah promised Muhammad that he would remember, he read and will remember, even though Allah promised him that, he forgot. So that's one reason, one Islamic argument. And let me show, okay, I think, okay, no, I'll show you another verse too. There's actually another verse that I should show with this, even though I'll also show you this verse um, when we go to another, uh, when we go to another topic too. Let me see here. Okay. Um, okay. Shoot. Okay, desktop. Okay. Just one second here. Okay. Okay. I think this is it here. Okay, no. I think this is it here. Okay, right here. Now, this is also in the Quran. Allah says, none of our revelations do we abrogate or cause to be forgotten, but we substitute some. Allah makes the verses to be forgotten. Now, you guys, this is like Allah makes the verse to be forgotten. He wants you to forget it. He makes you forget it. It's like, why give it in the first place if you're just going to make people forget it? Okay, why does this mean he forgot to announce the verse or Jibreel revealed the verse? He forgot to announce the Jibreel. It just makes you think there's this cognitive dissonance. On one hand, he says that you will read it, you'll not forget. And then it says Satan makes you forget, people make you forget, Allah himself makes you forget. And in the Quran and in the Hadith, Allah makes people forget the Quran. Okay, so this is particularly relevant because if you were watching, there was a debate. There was a debate between, shoot, who was it? I can't remember, but somebody was talking about the preservation of the Quran. And he says that the Quran has two methods of preservation. One is memory, that people memorize. So many thousands memorize the Quran. And so it has that as well as the written. Oh, okay. Who was it? It was a guy who was debating James White. He was debating James White. This guy was debating James White, and he said that. Oh, it was Adnan Rashid. Adnan Rashid. He was saying that the Quran has two methods of preservation. One is the memories of people. The other is the written. Both of them are completely right here. These verses prove that you can't rely on memory. Even Muhammad, who Allah promised, you guys, Allah promised Muhammad in this verse, you will not forget. Now, Allah, who created the universe on the back of a whale and did all these things, he is able to do what he says, right? He means what he says. He says, we will make you recite and you will not forget. Allah was involved in reminding Muhammad. And yet we turn around and what happens? What happens is Muhammad forgot surahs, verses of such and such surahs, which I missed. And if you read the Arabic, it's not missed, it's forgot. Muhammad forgot verses and surahs of the Quran, even though Allah promised him that he wouldn't. So that's the number 10 reason why the number 10 Islamic argument against the perfect preservation of the Quran. And since we've already kind of gotten into it, let's go ahead to the number 9 reason for against the preservation of the Quran. And this number 9 reason, you guys, is in the Quran itself. In the Quran itself, this reason, again, it says, when we substitute one revelation for another, and God knows what's best, he reveals in stages. It doesn't say that in Arabic. They say, you are but a forger, but most of them understand not. This is Quran 16:101. The second most popular verse about Quran abrogation. Okay, so we substitute one revelation for another. Okay, so Allah abrogates. This is abrogation, nasikh or mansukh. In Arabic, it's nasikh or mansukh. Okay, abrogate and abrogate, the abrogator and the abrogated. Okay, and Allah here is saying he substitutes one verse for another. And you think, why would he do that? I mean, he just replaces one verse with another. And there's 3 ways that they do this. One is they completely eliminate the verse. It's not in the Quran anymore. And the judgment, the verdict, or the ruling of it no longer applies. Sometimes the verse is still in the Quran, but the ruling no longer applies. For instance, there's no compulsion in religion. That verse has been abrogated. It's still in the Quran. You can read it, but it no longer applies because it's been abrogated. The writing remains, but the verdict is abrogated, or the ruling is abrogated. The third kind is that the ruling has been abrogated. One is the ruling and the verse have been abrogated. One, the verse remains, but the ruling no longer applies. And the third is the writing remains, and I forgot the third exactly how it works, but it's like that, the verdict applies, but the ruling, but the words, the text remains, but the ruling no longer applies. Okay. And so, or one is the verse is gone and the ruling is gone. The verse is gone and the ruling is gone. The verse remains, but the ruling is gone, or the verse remains and the ruling remains. It's something like that. I can't remember the third one. So anyway, but abrogation, and then you get a better understanding. It says, this one right here clarifies what is meant. None of our revelations do we cause to be forgotten, but we substitute something better or similar. Knowest now thou not that God has power over all things? So, Christian Prince said something really funny today about this. He says, if a verse says, eat shish kebab, why do you abrogate it and put another verse that says, eat shish kebab? I mean, what's the purpose? If it said, eat shish kebab, why do you got to erase it, go through all that trouble to write a verse that says, eat shish kebab, another verse, or eat shish kebab and replace it, say consume shish kebab, and you're saying, what's the purpose of that? What does it say about Allah that he would do something? Because it says something better or similar. And then there's the subject of the better. If there's something better, why didn't Allah give it in the first place? Why didn't you give the better one in the first place? Okay. I mean, if there's something better, then why didn't Allah give it in the beginning? Okay. Instead, um, uh, instead, Allah gave the lesser verse, and then He causes. I'm sorry, I'm looking for another verse too. I wanted to show you about abrogation as well. This is another huge verse about abrogation. Okay, this is Pickthall. Pickthall isn't always reliable, but sometimes he's okay. 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 I just want to show you this other verse that talks about just 1 second here. Did it go? Okay. Here's another verse about abrogation. There is one other too, but never sent we a messenger or prophet before thee, but when he recited, Satan proposed in respect to what he recited, but Allah abolishes what Satan proposes. Now, in the Arabic, it doesn't say it like this. I'm disappointed in Pickthall, but it says Allah abrogates what Satan casts in. So Satan puts things in the Quran and Allah takes it out. There were verses that were in the Quran, and I know Rob Christian did a thing about this, that these verses were actually in the Quran for like 8 years before they were removed. Okay, and what were the verse? The verse, I believe, is 22:53, where it says, have you considered Allat al-Uzza al-Manat, the 3 daughters of Allah? Their intercession is to be desired. But then Allah came and removed it. He abrogated it. He removed it because Satan got in. So what did Satan get into the Quran? According to the hadiths, he got those words when Muhammad was influenced by Satan to say, have you considered Allat al-Uzza al-Manat, the third? Their intercession is to be desired. Muhammad was saying to worship, to pray to the 3 daughters of Allah, Allat al-Uzza al-Manat. So anyway, so there's number 9 reason. Number 9, Islamic argument against perfect preservation of the Quran. How can it be perfectly preserved? You guys, you got to take from the perspective, and I always remember what I was told in school. Okay, this is what, and I know this is what they're teaching Muslim kids still, is that there's this big board up in heaven. Jibreel used to go read it, and then he would come down and give it to Muhammad. And give it to Muhammad. And what is in the Quran right now is exactly what's in that board up in heaven, the preserved tablet. Okay, and that's what we were taught. We were so convinced, we were willing to die for that belief. We're so convinced. And yet, even in the Quran itself, it tells you that that's not true. Because Allah has to come along and change what's in the Quran. So that's the number 9 reason. The number 9 reason why. Number 9 Islamic argument against the perfect preservation of the Quran. Okay, now let's go to the next one. Okay. All right. Okay, let's make this an easy one. Make this an easy one. This is something Aisha said. Okay. Ubay bin Ka'b said, Habash report, Ubay ibn Ka'b. Now this is from the hadith, from al-Suyuti, al-Ittiqan fi ulum al-Quran. It's like sureness in Quran science by Jalaluddin Suyuti, one of the most highly regarded. You've heard about Jalalain. The Jalalain commentary. Well, one of Jalalain means two Jalals. Okay, one of those Jalals is Jalaluddin Suyuti, the one who wrote this. Okay, so and it's a hadith that he's talking about. What is the extent of Surah Al-Ahzab? I said 70 or 73 verses. He said, yet it used to be equal to Surah Al-Baqarah. And in it, we recited the verses of stoning. And I said, what is the verse of stoning? He said, the fornicators among the married men and married women, stone them as exemplary punishment from Allah. Okay. Now he's saying that Surah Al-Ahzab used to be the same length as Surah Al-Baqarah. Okay. Now let's just look at this. Surah Al-Ahzab used to be as long as Surah Al-Baqarah. Okay. Now, how long is Surah Al-Baqarah? Surah Al-Baqarah, you guys, is 286 verses. Surah Al-Baqarah is 286 verses. Okay. And how long is Surah Al-Ahzab? Okay. Let's look at this. Ahzab. Ahzab is where Muhammad gets to marry his daughter-in-law. Okay. Surah Al-Ahzab is how many verses? 73. So that means that like 210 verses of Surah Al-Ahzab are missing, according to Jalaluddin Suyuti, according to Ubay ibn Ka'b. You guys, Ubay ibn Ka'b, Muhammad said, you take the Quran from three people. Abdullah bin Mas'ud, Ubay ibn Ka'b, Salim, the slave that had to be breastfed by his boss's wife, and there's another guy, I forgot the other guy's name. Okay, but Muhammad said you take the Quran from four. One of them is Ubay ibn Ka'b. He's the one who said this. Let's read it again. He says, what is the extent of Surah Al-Ahzab? Okay, Surah Al-Ahzab is Surah number 33, you guys. Surah number 33. How long is it? He said it used to be equal to Surah Al-Baqarah, which is Surah number 2, the cow, the Hindu chapter. Okay, and in it, he said what's in it. He said it used to be as long as Surah Al-Baqarah. Surah Al-Baqarah is 286 verses. Surah Al-Ahzab is 73 verses. There's a hadith there says that the Quran, I mean, it's just telling you right out. It's like, dude, the Quran is not perfectly preserved. Whoever's telling you that is lying to you, because the hadith very clear. The Quran says very clearly that it is not perfectly preserved. So there's your number 8, Islamic argument against perfect preservation of the Quran. Number 1, Allah makes people forget it. Muhammad himself forgot it. Satan makes people forget it. People make people forget it. Muhammad forgot it. That's number 10 reason. The number 9 reason is because Allah abrogated. And if you want to really delve into the subject of abrogation, about 1/3 of the Quran has been abrogated. About 1/3 of the Quran, meaning it's still there. You can still read it, but 1/3 of those verses don't apply no more. They've been abrogated. Okay, this is what Jalaluddin Suyuti says. Hundreds of verses are no longer apply in the Quran. They're just abrogated. And totally all the peaceful verses of the Quran have been abrogated. There's like 127 peaceful verses. All of them have been abrogated. Okay, the Mecca verses, the peaceful verses, all have been abrogated. Okay, according to Jalaluddin Suyuti. Okay, so that's your number 7. Number 8, Islamic argument against perfect preservation of the Quran. Okay, don't forget, number 1, Allah makes you forget it. Number 2, he abrogates it, he deletes it, erases it. Number 3, Surah Al-Ahzab should be 286 verses. Oh, there's only 73 left. meaning 210 verses are gone from it. At least 210 verses are gone. It's actually more like 215 verses are gone from Surah Al-Ahzab, according to Ubay ibn Ka'b, Muhammad's number one reciter. According to him, 215 verses of Surah Al-Ahzab, chapter 33, are gone with the wind, and nobody knows where they are. Okay? These are Islamic reasons, you guys. I'm not giving you Christian reasons or scientific. I'm giving you Islamic reasons why the Quran is not perfectly preserved. Okay? Another reason. Okay? Let's look at let's look at these. Let's look at the situation of Muhammad's top memorizer. When Muhammad said, take the Quran from 4 people, the number one guy, he said, was Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Let's look at some of the stuff that Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said, okay? Now here's a long one. Okay, this is when Uthman, the number 3 caliph, came up with the Quran, Zayd's Quran, you know, the Quran that Uthman supposedly wrote, that people supposedly have today, one of the many, many recitations of it. When Uthman wrote the new Quran and burned all the old ones, when he did that, Abdullah bin Mas'ud said this. He said, "O Muslim people, I am removed from the recording, the transcription of the Mus'haf, and it is overseen by a man by Allah. When I accepted Islam, he was in the loins of a disbelieving man." Now he's talking about Zayd ibn Thabit, meaning Zayd ibn Thabit. And it was regarding this that Abdullah bin Mas'ud said, "O people of Al-Iraq, keep the Quran, the Musahaf that are with you, and conceal them." Why? Because Uthman wanted to burn them. Keep the Musahaf. Musahaf is plural of Qurans. Now Musahaf is talking about the physical books. He says, keep the physical books that are with you. You guys, this is Abdullah bin Mas'ud. Muhammad said, take the Quran from him. He's the number one guy you're supposed to take the Quran from. He said, keep the Quran you have. Don't give in to Uthman's ploy and conceal them. He said, hide them. Why? Because Uthman wants to burn them. For indeed Allah says, and whoever conceals something, he shall come with it on the day of judgment. So meet Allah with the Mus'haf. It was conveyed to me amongst men, the most virtuous of the companions of the Messenger of Allah disliked the view of Abdullah bin Mas'ud. This is Sahih Hadith, you guys. Abdullah bin Mas'ud says, don't trust the Quran you have. The Quran you have today supposedly is the Uthmani. It's not. But supposedly you got the Hafs Quran. But he says, don't trust it. He didn't trust it. He didn't trust what the Uthman did. So there's your number 7 reason. The number 7 top Islamic argument against the perfect preservation of the Quran. This is the number 7 reason. Okay, number 1, because Allah makes you forget it. Satan makes you forget it. People make you forget it. Allah promised to make you remember it, but Muhammad still forgot it. Okay, so Muhammad forgot verses of it. Okay, number 9, because Allah abrogates. Number 8, because Surah Al-Ahzab is supposed to be 286 verses. It's only 73, meaning 215 verses, according to Ubay ibn Ka'b, are gone with the wind. And number 7, because Abdullah bin Mas'ud said he doesn't trust Zayd, he who was the number 1 reciter, companion, said, dude, don't accept Uthman's Quran. Don't accept Zayd's Quran. Okay. And here's something else by Ibn Mas'ud. Imam Fakhruddin said that reports in some of the ancient books that Ibn Mas'ud denied Surah Al-Fatiha, and the Muwathatani are part of the Quran are embarrassing in their implications. You guys, this gets even worse. With Abdullah bin Mas'ud, we need a whole episode just about Abdullah bin Mas'ud. Abdullah bin Mas'ud says 3 of the surahs in the Quran today, were not in his Quran. Muhammad never said, take the Quran from Zayd ibn Thabit. He never said that. Muhammad never said, take the Quran from Uthman. He never said that. But he did say, take the Quran from Abdullah bin Mas'ud. Well, Abdullah bin Mas'ud, his Quran did not have the Fatiha, chapter 1, and did not have, it's called that long word, but what it means is chapter 113 and chapter 114 of Uthman's Quran, Surah Al-Falaq, Surah Al-Nas, Surah of the universe and Surah of the people. Those were not in Abdullah bin Mas'ud's Quran. Muhammad did not say, take the Quran from Zayd bin Thabit, but Uthman did. Muhammad did not say, take the Quran from Uthman. Muslims today they're disobeying. So if you're a Muslim, you're disobeying Muhammad. Just know that you're disobeying Muhammad. No problem with me. I don't obey Muhammad, but as a Muslim, you're supposed to. Muhammad never said take the Quran from Uthman. He never said take the Quran from Zayd. He said take it from Abdullah. And Abdullah's Quran does not have chapter 1 and does not have chapter 113 or chapter 114. Abdullah Mas'ud had to, remember, he said, keep your Mus'haf, keep your Quran, don't give it to Uthman. Well, his did not have chapter 1, chapter 113, or chapter 114. It only had 112 verses. And Muhammad also said, take your Quran from Ubay ibn Ka'b. He said, Abdullah and Ubay, the number 2 guy is Ubay ibn Ka'b. Well, his Quran had 2 more chapters besides the 114. He had 2 more. And Muhammad said, take it from him. He didn't say, take it from Zayd. Muhammad never said, take the Quran from Uthman. He never said, take the Quran from from Uthman or from Zayd. Muslims disobeyed Muhammad. They're disobedient to their prophet. Okay. Here's another Abdullah Mas'ud narrated. Abdullah bin Mas'ud was mentioned before Abdullah bin Amr, who said, this is a man I still love, as I heard the prophet say, learn the recitation of the Quran from 4. Abdullah bin Mas'ud, he started with him. Salim, the freed slave of Abu Hudayfa, the one who did the breastfeeding. Mu'adh bin Jabal and Ubay ibn Ka'b. This is Sahih Hadith. If you obey Muhammad in this, you have to throw away the Fatiha and chapter 113 and 14 of the Quran, because that's what Abdullah bin Mas'ud did. If you obey this, of course, you can't obey this. Let me just tell you right now, you cannot obey this command of Muhammad. You can't obey it. You know why? Because if you take Abdullah bin Mas'ud's, then you cannot take Ubay bin Ka'b, because Ubay bin Ka'b kept the Fatiha, kept 113, 114, and added 2 more. And I don't know the situation of Salim and Mu'adh. I don't even know what their Qur'ans are like. But it's impossible to obey this, of course. It's Muhammad. But anyway, so this is the number 7 reason. Number 7, Islamic argument against the perfect preservation of the Quran. And there's much more than that. That's 7, 8, 9 right there. There's so many arguments there. Islamic arguments against the perfect preservation of the Quran. Okay, so let's go back. Okay. I have to keep going back here. Another reason. Okay. This is what Umar bin Khattab said. Okay, it is reported from Ishmael ibn Ibrahim, from Ayyub bin Nafi, from Ibn Umar, who said, let none of you say, I have acquired the whole Quran. How does he know what all of it is when much of the Quran has disappeared? Rather, let him say, I have acquired what has survived. Again, Jalaluddin Asyuti, this is, but this is from Ibn Umar, Umar bin Khattab, son of Umar bin Khattab. Umar bin Khattab is the one who originally said this. Don't say you have the whole Quran, say you have what's left of it. Because much of the Quran has disappeared. Much of the Quran has disappeared. Ah, boy, yeah. That's your number 6 reason. Number 6, Islamic argument against the perfect preservation of the Quran. Okay. Okay. Now, okay. Then you get these two crazy stories. These two crazy stories right here. We're talking about perfect preservation, you guys. Okay, this is Abdullah, narrated Abdullah. I heard a man reciting the verse of the Holy Quran, but I had heard the Prophet reciting it differently. So I caught hold of the man by the hand and took him to the messenger, who said, both of you are right. Shubha, sub-narrator, said, I think he said to them, don't differ, for the nations before you differed and perished because of their differences. Because Muhammad knew he had a big problem on his hand, because he forgot how he recited it originally. This guy did recite it differently. It's called the Sab'a Ahruf, the 7 modes of the Quran. Now, this is the Ubay ibn Ka'b situation. Similar. Once it was with Omar bin Khattab, once it was with Ubay. Same situation, just a little bit different. Okay, it says, the messenger taught me a surah, and I was sitting in the masjid. I heard a man reciting it in a way different from mine. I said to him, who taught you this surah? He said, the messenger of Allah. I said, stay with me until we go to the messenger. So we came to him. I said, messenger, this man recites a surah that you taught me differently. The messenger said, recite, O obey. So I recited it, and the messenger said to me, you have done well. Then he said to the man, recite. So he recited it, and it was different than my recitation. The messenger said to him, you have done well. Then the messenger said, Ubay bin Ka'b, obey. The Quran has been revealed in 7 different modes of recitation, all of which are good and sound. Why didn't he tell them this before? Why did he wait until this moment to reveal this to them? Okay, he hadn't said nothing about these 7 recitations before. All of a sudden, it's not recitation, it's ahruf, and nobody knows what that means. Okay, some people call it modes of the Quran. Okay, and so why did he wait until now to tell people about it? So anyway, so there's your number 6 reason. 6 Islamic argument against perfect preservation of Quran. Okay, number 6 argument against it. Okay, let's go back. Okay, all right. Or okay, abrogation. Haduf. Okay, then you have this verse. The verse of stoning and breastfeeding of an adult 10 times was revealed, and the paper was with me under my pillow. When the messenger of Allah died, we were preoccupied with his death, and a tame sheep came in and ate it. Okay, now this is Aisha speaking. Okay, and here's another little thing about the breastfeeding situation. Aisha, Allah be pleased with her, reported that it had been revealed in the Quran that 10 sucklings make the marriage unlawful, and it was abrogated to 5 sucklings. And Allah's apostle died before that time. It was found in the Quran. Before that time, you hear, listen to this, you guys. This is Sahih Muslim. It was abrogated by 5 sucklings, and Allah's apostle died. And before that time, it was found in the Quran. Before Muhammad died, this was in the Quran. It's not in the Quran anymore because the sheep ate it. It was in the Quran, but it's not in the Quran. It was found in the Quran. It's Sahih Muslim. Number 5. That's the number 5 Islamic argument against the perfect preservation of the Quran. Number 1, Allah makes you forget. Satan makes you forget. People make you forget. Allah promised to let Muhammad remember, but then Muhammad forgot because Allah made him forget. Number 9, because of abrogation. Abrogation, Allah just removes verses and replaces verses. And number 8, because Surah Al-Ahzab is 215 verses short. Another is because the breastfeeding verses are gone. Another, okay, I'm not keeping, I can't remember all of them that fast, but okay, these are all Quranic reasons. Okay, all right. Ibn Mas'ud, I didn't do Ubay ibn Ka'b, or we'd have 11 reasons. Okay, we'd have 11 reasons. Now this one, I don't see people talking about it very much, but when I read this, I think it really shows you there's a problem. And this is when Uthman was writing his Quran. When Uthman was writing his Quran, okay, he went and got Hafsa's Quran because Zayd ibn Thabit had already written a Quran for Umar and Abu Bakr. He had already written one, and it was under Hafsa's bed. There's only one copy of it. It was under Hafsa's bed, okay, and for 20 years or however long. Then there began to be differences, and everybody had different Qurans. In Iraq and Azerbaijan, we're going to go to war or something like that. And then Uthman said, bring me all your Quran, so he could do a bonfire. He burned them all, and he wrote a new one. Okay, but remember, Abdullah bin Mas'ud said, don't give your Quran to them. You guys, this story is just so many holes in the narrative here. Okay, so send the manuscripts of the Quran so that we may compile the Quranic materials in perfect copies and return the manuscripts to you. Hafsa sent it to Uthman. Uthman then ordered Zayd ibn Thabit, Abdullah bin Zubair, okay, this guy is going to become a caliph, Sa'ad bin al-As, and Abdul Rahman al-Harith bin Hisham. Okay, so these are the people that Uthman told to rewrite the manuscripts in perfect copies. Okay, in perfect copies. So they're going to have perfect copies of Hafsa's Quran. They're going to have perfect copies of Hafsa's Quran, okay, which was Abu Bakr's Quran that Zayd wrote, okay. But then listen to what he says. This is where, for me, it tells you something's wrong here. Uthman said to the 3 Qurayshi men, in case you disagree with Zayd ibn Thabit on any point in the Quran, then write it in the dialect of Quraysh. The Quran was revealed in their tongue. Okay, so he's telling, if you dip, so even though they're just supposedly supposed to be copying it, somehow something was going to happen, could happen, that would result in some kind of differences between them and Zayd. What is it? Uthman foresaw that there was going to be some kind of tension between them and Zayd. And Uthman said, if there's any tension between you, just go ahead and change it into Qurayshi dialect, whatever it is. Meaning, what these 10 words or so, what they mean is they did not copy it exactly like Hafsa. Why didn't they just copy it? Why did they have to go editorialize or comment on it or change it? They were just supposed to copy it perfectly from Hafsa, but they weren't going to do that. They were going to do something that could lead to differences between them and Zayd. And then Uthman told them, just write it in the Quraysh, meaning that they changed it. Which means there's the number 5 Islamic argument against perfect preservation of the Quran. Okay, so here's another part of that. Okay, I think I told you that already. Okay. All right, so there's one more reason you differ with Zayd. Okay, here's another one. Number 4 reason, number 4 argument. You are the best among the inhabitants of Basra, for you are the reciters among them. So continue to recite it. Bear in mind that your reciting for a long time may not harden your hearts, as were hardened the hearts of those before you. We used to recite a surah which resembled in length and severity Surat Barat. I have, however, forgotten it. We used to recite a surah which resembles Surat Barat. I have, however, forgotten it, with the exception of this, which I remember out of it. If there were 2 valleys full of riches, the son of Adam would long for a 3rd valley, and nothing would fill the stomach of the son of Adam but dust. And we used recite a surah which resembled one of the surahs of Mushabihat, and I have forgotten, but I remember this much out of it. O people who believe, why do you say that which you do not practice? And that is recorded in your necks as a witness against you, and you'll be asked about it on the day of resurrection. Okay, this is Sahih Muslim, it's Sahih Hadith. So he's talking about 2 passages of the Quran that are not in the Quran anymore, that he remembered, but that they're not in the Quran. I mean, this is telling you, this is the number 3 argument against Islamic argument against the perfect preservation of the Quran. Very bluntly telling you the Quran is not preserved. Okay. Okay. Then we have, let me see. Rest. Abrogation. You know what, you guys? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I think I used to recite. I think, you guys, I've actually given you 9 so far. I think I've given you 9. Ibn Mas'ud, forget, breastfeeding, aharuf, abrogation. Ibn Mas'ud, Hazab, okay, yeah. If you differ with Zayd, used to recite. Okay, forgot what was left. Okay, this is the number 1. This is the number 1 Islamic argument against the perfect preservation of the Quran. Okay, number 1. The messenger of Allah invited him so he could write the revelation. So when verse 23:12, and certainly we did create man from the extract of clay, was revealed, the Prophet called Ibn Abi Sarh and dictated it to him. And when the point reached, thus we created 23:14, thus we formed him into a new creation. Abdullah said in amazement, فَتَبَارَكَ اللَّهُ أَحْسَنُ الْخَالِقِينَ. So bless Allah, the best of creators. So, Muhammad is telling this guy a bunch of baloney about embryology, about how, it goes from a sperm drop to a blood clot to some kind of what's the word, lump, and then eventually it becomes a bone, and after it's a bone, flesh is wrapped around the bone, and it's all wrong, but it's what people believe back then. There's a guy named Galen, a Greek physician, who came up with these, and Muhammad put it in the Quran to make it look like he came up with it. But anyway, Muhammad was telling this. It was his ammunicis, I can't remember the word, but his scribe, and this guy's name's Abdullah bin Sarh. Okay, and he was telling him, write this down. He says, and then it turns into another creation. And when Muhammad said that, Abdullah bin Sarah said, wow, Allah's the best of creators. Ahsan al-Khaliqeen. And then Muhammad said, ooh, that sounds nice. Put it in the Quran. Go ahead and write it. And then the guy said, but wait a minute, I'm the one that said it. I'm not a prophet. I'm not a prophet. How can you put my words in the Quran? And it's in the Quran right now, you guys. It's in the Quran right now. And it's not it wasn't from Muhammad. It was from this guy, Abdullah bin Sarah. And Abdullah bin Sarah said, wait a minute. I'm the one that came up with that. How could that be from God when I'm not a prophet? I said it. So how could it be from God? I'm not a prophet. And you want to put it in the Quran? How can you put it in the Quran when it was my words? Is that? Wait a minute. I'm not a prophet. How can you put my words in Allah's book? And then Abdullah bin Sarah figured, wait a minute. I'm not a prophet, but neither are you, Muhammad. That's what he figured out, and he left Islam because of it. Now, he did return to Islam later because of the threat of his life, and he had a cousin named Uthman who pleaded on his behalf because Muhammad wanted to kill him because he was an apostate when he went and took over Mecca. So he went back, but he went back with the threat of losing his head. So, yeah, so there you go, you guys. Top 10 Islamic arguments against the perfect preservation of the Quran. And there's so many more. These are just the top 10, but there's another 100. And maybe we'll do a follow-up to this. Okay, let's see. The first surah and ayah of Quran is surah. Yeah. You see, is Allah made you from. You know what? Interesting. Haronme, it brought this up. That was the first verse that Muhammad got was, the blood clot, man is made from a blood clot or whatever. Well, you know what? That's not the first verse in the Quran. That's not the first verse in the Quran. Why isn't it? It's 96. It's Surah 96. How come it's way at the end there? Why isn't it the first verse in the Quran? Because the Quran speaks about one of the ways that people corrupt their scriptures is that they put words in the wrong places. Well, if this was the first verse, it should be chapter 1, verse 1. But it's not. It's way in Surah 96, which means Muslims have put words in different places, meaning they have corrupted their books. So thank you, Haron May, for that. 2 verses are taken out of a copy of a manuscript. Why does it disappear into thin air? What if there had been a fire? Well, there was a fire, Uthman's fire, and everybody and their grandmother knew the Quran by heart. Well, not everybody, because remember when they all started dying at the Battle of Yamama? And then Abu Bakr said, uh-oh, the Quran's going to go. And so that's why they had to write it. Zayd had to write the first Quran. Okay, but then they wanted another one. Zayd, poor guy, man. I heard his dad was Jewish, so he had a really good work ethic. So as a charge for Balloon making fun of it. All right, you guys, there you have it. The top 10 Islamic arguments against perfect preservation of the Quran. I think I'm going to do soon top 10 reasons a Muslim cannot be Quran only. That'll maybe be next week. The top 10 reasons Muslims cannot be Quran only. It's possible. So, all right, you guys, do we have any Muslims who would like to come on and debate or argue? If there's any Muslims who would like to come on, and welcome you in my how easy it would be to corrupt. Yes. All right, you guys. Well, if not, then that's what we're going to share tonight. And so if you haven't done it, there's Pinky. How are you, Pinky? Didn't talk today. Is everything okay? I'm going to play for you one of my songs. No, I played it recently. I made this song and I made a video for it. So I've only played it once though, so I think it's okay for me to play it again. Oops, oops, cancel. Um, so I'm gonna play this. This is my new song. Uh, it's not really new. I wrote the song about 10 years ago, but the video is new. I made the video new, and so I'll play the video for you. There's possibly your future president, Kamala Harris. Oops. Okay, right here.
One of these days, look past this misty haze. One of these days, look past this misty haze, and I can see your eyes looking back at me, and I can see your eyes looking back at me, looking back at me. The Father from the Son, for us He turned away. For just a moment, all eternity waited to see you from the darkness like could be born. The body that fell, the heaven, the earth, the body was torn. To open up a door that never will be closed. Cause Jesus, 3 days after death arose. The keys of death and hell were firmly in His hand. He crushed the devil's head to give new life to man. One of these days, look past this misty haze. One of these days, look past this misty haze, and I can see your eyes looking back at me, and I can see your eyes looking back at me, looking back at me.
Okay, guys. You know what? There's somebody who is who has been trying to witness to me about Islam, and I just sent an invitation to see if she wants to come on. She is the mother of one of my boyhood friends, from 80 years ago, and she's been trying to. She's worried about me and wants me to come back to Islam. So I just invited her to come on, and she sent a message. So I'm just going to wait a few minutes, see if she does come on. I don't know if she will come on. She was talking to me the other day, telling me about it, asking me how come all of these educated people are turning to Islam, and you know, look, you know, I got some questions, so maybe I don't know if she'll come, but anyway, anyway, thank you guys for hanging around. And if you haven't done it, by the way, okay. Okay. Anyway, guys, God bless you. Thank you for hanging out with us. And okay. All right. Well, you guys, if you haven't done it, please do it now. Jesus help me. I just want to say why I'm a Christian, just in case they're watching. I just want to say why I'm a Christian. Okay. I did not become a Christian because Muhammad married a 6-year-old girl when he was 51. I did not become a Christian. I did not leave Islam because he had sex with Aisha when she was 9 years old and he was 54. I did not leave Islam because Muhammad married his daughter-in-law, Zainab bint Jahsh, and made his son divorce her so he could marry her. I didn't leave Islam because of that. I didn't leave Islam because Muhammad killed 900 Jews in one day, committing genocide on a whole tribe of people. I didn't leave Islam, because of Muhammad's uh, encounters with these wicked spirits that he said controlled him, that he said commanded him. I didn't leave Islam because of any of that. I left Islam because Jesus came to me, and I know it doesn't happen that way with everyone, but that's what happened with me. I was watching TV, listening to somebody talk about Jesus, and all of a sudden the Spirit of God just fell on me. Like the Bible says, in the last days, God says, I will pour out my Spirit on all flesh. He did that. He came. That's because, and when Jesus came, he gave me life. He gave me joy. He gave me peace that I never had when I was a Muslim. That's why I follow Jesus. Not because of some arguments, not because, even though I'm not against the arguments, I use them and I believe in it, but it was a supernatural visitation. And when Jesus came, he gave me what I was looking for when I was a Muslim. When I was a Muslim, I was looking for, I really wanted a relationship with God. I wanted so bad to have a relationship with God where I could talk to him and feel his presence. And in Islam, I never had that. I never had that. I would beg God and I never had it. But when I came to Jesus, immediately I had it because he came to give me living water so I'll never thirst again. And he'll do it for everybody who calls on him. So that's why I'm a Christian. And again, if there's any Muslims who want to come on, we welcome you. I know it's a little bit late, it's 11:30. So hopefully we'll be here tomorrow. And if you haven't done it, please do it now. Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart. Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart. يسوع ساعدني, يسوع سامحني, يسوع ادخل قلبي. We love you, but much more importantly, he loves you. And so you guys have a wonderful night. Thanks for hanging out. And top 10 Islamic arguments against the perfect preservation of the Quran. Oh, by the way, you guys, let me just tell you one other thing, because Christian Prince, the other day I spoke about a word called beddil. Beddil. In Arabic, it means to exchange. And I was talking about how that word is used in the Quran, because, exchanging, and there's actually a point where it says you can no longer exchange your wives. And I thought, what does that mean? No longer, that means they were exchanging their wives, wife swapping. And then I showed you hadith, and I showed you the story where, yes, indeed, that's what it means. But then there's a verse that I heard Christian Prince say today that where in the Quran that word is used again. And I will do something about it in the future, but where Muhammad was mad at his two wives, Hafsa and Aisha. Yeah, Hafsa and Aisha, he was mad at them, and he says, you know what? Allah can just exchange you for better wives. And others do a swap with somebody else for their wives. So that word is used again in the Quran. I'm gonna have to do. So anyway, all right, you guys. You know what? We need to read. We'll just leave it for tomorrow. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for being with us. Have a wonderful night. Thanks.
The question about the Hur al-Ain. He said the men in Jannah, we know, will be receiving Hur al-Ain. But what about the women? What do they receive?
Well, we are told that they will only receive their husband and one single person. Because by default, women can only love one man. Subhanallah, by nature, Allah created them unable to love more than one man. But Allah created men to have the capability of loving more than one woman. And we are told, and we believe Allah, and all the sisters should have their trust in Allah, that they will be satisfied in paradise. They should not doubt Allah's generosity and reward to them. And having said that, I would have expected this question to come from a sister, not from a brother. So I would have thought that the brother should be happy. But again, it's a valid question. We're told that men are to get their wives in paradise. And by the way, the human wives are far superior in beauty and in status to the man than the Hur al-Ain. The Hur al-Ain are considered to be as servants. But the wife, the human wife that was in this world with you, is far superior in beauty and in status.
If you have ever wondered why dull apologists lie so much, it's because on a rare occasion that they tell the truth, this happens.
One of the reasons I accepted Islam was the scientific miracles. I'll be honest with you. And now we know that this whole scientific miracles was absolute nonsense.
You're going to have to repeat that.
No. That the standard narrative has holes in it. That's what I'm going to say.